It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Give me a subscribe on my YouTube channel at Randy Wang Radio and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. A line has been drawn in the sand. A battle has begun. And this time, it's the city attorney of San Francisco, David Chu, who is going after not big tobacco, not big pharma, not big oil, but big food. Chu is going after food. Come on, I can't be the first person to make that joke. What's going on here? The city attorney of San Francisco is suing the manufacturers of so-called ultra-processed foods for making us fat because their food was addictive, irresistible, and their advertising made it look so healthy. Don't know about that one. Let's hear what he has to say, and let's see if there's any merit to this, because I think we're all pretty aware of how fat we all got by eating breakfast cereal for the past 50 years and Hot Pockets, or I don't know, Lean Pockets, because they're so much healthier than Hot Pockets. So I'd like to hear him out. This is particularly interesting to me as somebody that just lost 60 pounds in the last 4 months by one of the things I did was not eating any ultra-processed foods, although I had black bean soup for lunch that I made from scratch. And then I was still hungry, and I had these Quest chips. Have you seen these? They're protein chips. So they're made with like whey protein and milk protein, but they taste like, like tortilla chips. They're pretty darn good. Is that count as an ultra-processed food? Because it's definitely not natural. Are any chips, I guess tortilla chips that are made of corn are a little less ultra-processed. How do we define what is ultra-processed foods? Well, let's see what the city attorney of San Francisco has to say. Here's Chu on food.
Good morning.
We're chewing the fat.
Good morning. My name is David Chu. I'm the city attorney of San Francisco, and I want to thank all of you for being here today. We are here to announce a first-of-its-kind lawsuit against the largest manufacturers of ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods that are making us sick, plain and simple.
You know, it's funny. Many years ago, I got some advice from a friend that if you want to stay healthy, go to the grocery store and stick to the aisles. And this is true for stick to the edges, stick to the walls. And this is true for so many grocery stores, not every grocery store, but you take your Trader Joe's, for instance. You've got your produce, you got your fruits. Then on the top end, you've got your meats, you got your dairy. It's all in the little aisleways, and in the hallways, you have all of those chocolates and all those cookies and all of those frozen treats and all of those simple made meals that probably aren't as healthy, although it's a Trader Joe's. How bad could it be? I don't know. We're going to find out. Trader Joe's does make the Trader Joe's version of plenty of ultra-processed foods.
These products in our diets are deeply linked to serious health conditions, imposing enormous costs on millions of Americans and cities and states across our country.
And this is part of the thing that we have to grapple with. While we live in a country that has free choice, and you should be able to eat whatever the hell you want to eat, because America, and believe you me, for many of the 40 years that I've been on this planet, I ate whatever the hell I ate. But something to consider in our system of government, in our economy, is the fatter I get, the more expensive your health insurance is going to be. That's just how the system works.
Our case is about companies who designed food to be harmful and addictive and marketed their products to maximize profits.
And I will say, I don't remember a lot about things that I learned in elementary school. I don't remember a lot of things that I learned in junior high school. I don't remember almost anything I learned in high school. But what do I know by heart? Honeycomb big. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not small. No, no, no. That crap is burned into my brain.
Like the tobacco industry, they knew their products make people very sick, but hid the truth from the public, profited from untold billions, and left Americans to deal with the consequences. Over the years, our San Francisco City Attorney's Office has successfully held...
Big tobacco made you thin, but we got rid of big tobacco, so now we gave you big food to make you fat, and the only way to cure you is with big pharma. There's a lot of big going on.
Over the years, our San Francisco City Attorney's Office has successfully held accountable industries that profited enormously from products that they knew harmed the health of millions. Tobacco, lead paint, opioids.
Okay, and let me just give you one thing that's an issue I have with the opioid settlements, which I truly think that, the Sackler family and the people who manufactured these unbelievably addictive painkillers that got so many people on the wrong track, they definitely should have been held accountable. And sometimes the only way to hold these people accountable, because we can never put anybody in prison, is to make them pay and make them pay big, because people were getting rich. Doctors were getting bribed to prescribe this stuff. But have you ever asked yourself where that money goes? Because you think it goes to drug treatment, and in some instances it does. And in some instances, like in Los Angeles and San Francisco, opioid settlement money was going towards harm reduction programs, like, passing out meth pipes in MacArthur Park or the Mission.
This is our next fight. So what are ultra-processed foods? We're talking about...
By the way, this still isn't a legally defined term. Part of that law that was passed in California this year that's going to identify and then ban ultra-processed foods in schools is getting an advisory board together to figure out what are the ultra-processed foods.
We're talking about food that is not food, that is not found in nature, created by combining artificial...
If it has the word hydrogenated in it, it's probably not real food.
Created by combining artificial chemicals with industrialized processes. You can see a few of the worst offenders right here.
And he's got a whole tray of snacks in front of him. And, there's been a lot of talk about this lately with the MAHA movement. There's actually been some talk about finally banning artificial dyes. Things, by the way, that Europe has been well ahead of us on. Many people have pointed out that Fruit Loops in Europe look a little different because they're not made to look all bright because they're using natural dyes from natural fruit. I don't even want to know what makes that Fruit Loop pink.
While ultra-processed foods often have high sodium, added sugar, saturated fats, the health concerns are not just the amount of calories, fat, or salt. Ultra-processed foods themselves cause unique health risks because of their chemicals, because of how those chemicals are combined, the processes by which they are made.
You ever look at the ingredients of French fries at In-N-Out Burger, and it's like potatoes and salt? And then you look at the ingredients of French fries at McDonald's, and there are about 12 different words that you cannot pronounce. How'd that happen?
The industry has created thousands of new chemicals, which the body metabolizes and craves differently. And they are designed to be addictive. Addictiveness is a feature, not a bug.
There's going to be a lot of people that listen to this and think, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault that I can't just have one Lay's potato chip bag. You thought I'd just say potato chip. No, I said potato chip bag. And yes, while it is true that there are chemicals, including natural chemicals like sugar, that make these sweet and salty treats so unbelievably addictive, I do also believe in personal responsibility, as in I was able to break that addiction and relapse on it several times, but currently doing very well. Part of the way that I lost 60 pounds in 4 months is I stopped eating any ultra-processed food or any fast food. It can be done, as addictive as they are, and I have not a super addictive personality, but a moderately addictive personality. I'm just lucky I'm not good at gambling.
I want to just share a quick personal story. When I was a kid, my mom used Pringles to get me to take swim lessons. And to this day, I love my Pringles. But
Yeah, I mean, we always knew there was something wrong with those. Of course, it's not even just Pringles. You know how there's like the healthy version knockoff Pringles that you see at Sprouts or another health food store? They're much better for you than Pringles. And Pringles, did you know they have gluten in them? Yeah, that's weird. So we're in a gluten-free household, so we have to get the nicer ones that are still not great for you. Let me tell you, my wife, if she's going to get those, has to hide them from me because I cannot be trusted. I start making the little duck lips with the Pringles. I start shoving the whole can in my mouth, and by the time she gets to them, they're all gone. There are certain things we just can't have in the house. But as adults, it's definitely easy for the two of us to make sure that we don't bring those things in the house. We are adults. We know what food is good for us. We know what food is bad for us. What I got to imagine is difficult is when you have kids, especially small kids, because I was a kid. I didn't want to eat the barbecued salmon that my dad wanted to make. No. Somehow, I was such a whiny brat that I got to eat frozen burritos and Hot Pockets for dinner any night of the week. I got to have frozen Celeste pizza for one. And, you know, when I see the small children in my life, my niece, good luck getting to her to eat anything that isn't a Z-bar. And I don't know how ultra-processed those are, but they're pretty much chocolate.
But they are designed to be highly addictive. In recent decades, this industry has flooded the American food supply. Today, they make up 70% of our food supply.
Yes, but you can totally not buy those foods. You can go to the farmer's market where you're not going to see any ultra-processed food. I'm going to tell you right now, one of the problems that we have, and something that can't be addressed at the local level, but has to be addressed at the federal level, is the fact that ultra-processed foods can be bought with EBT cards and food stamps in the SNAP program. And I know there's a lot of reforms being talked about when it comes to who qualifies for these programs, but I look at subsidies as a two-way street because not only is the low-income person being subsidized, but whatever food is being bought is being subsidized. And if the government has a say into what's being subsidized, why is it the potato chips and the Pepsi that are the biggest recipient of those food stamps? Why is it Walmart, who pays their employees so little that they're on food stamps that then gets to collect them three ways? Maybe, just maybe, we have to make it so if you're on that kind of assistance, you can only get natural foods, produce, meat, dairy. And if, oh, no, I live in a food desert, not an excuse anymore. Did you know you can use EBT cards on Instacart? So nonsense with the food deserts. And if it really is a situation where the only thing around you is a mini mart and they don't have any fresh anything, not even bananas, well, then we should figure out why that is, and we should change that.
There's no one who can completely avoid ultra-processed foods.
That's not true.
There's no one who can completely avoid ultra-processed foods.
There are plenty of people that can avoid them. Now, there are a lot of places, but for the most part, we know what they are.
So what's the harm? Ultra-processed foods have created...
Hey, do those chickpea pastas count as ultra-processed foods? Because I like those. I mean, yes, if I had to, I can just do spaghetti squash, and I love spaghetti squash or zucchini spirals, but... you know, those chickpea pastas, packed full of protein.
Ultra-processed foods have created an enormous public health crisis with skyrocketing healthcare costs. As the consumption of these products has risen, so has chronic disease. Many recent studies and massive data sets have confirmed the very clear link between ultra-processed foods and chronic diseases. Type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, heart disease, kidney disease.
You know, I got tested for possible fatty liver disease, but I wasn't sure if that was from eating too much McDonald's or drinking too much wine.
Fatty liver disease, heart disease, kidney disease, colorectal cancer, Crohn's disease, depression, and the impact on children.
Okay, that one's funny. I will say, in the throes of my junk food and fast food addictions, nothing made me happier than eating a big old brown bag of Jack in the Box. And nothing made me sadder than when that big old bag of Jack in the Box was empty. Do you know how salty my fingers used to get? You know how salty my car used to get? Digging around looking for that one last fry? Okay, this guy might have a point.
And the impact on children has been particularly alarming. Unprecedented levels of obesity and type 2 diabetes. We have reached a tipping point in the scientific research about the harm of these products. Significant studies have been coming out confirming what we know. Just this month, Lancet published 3 papers. Last month, the Journal of the American Medical Association wrote about it, and so on. International consensus by the scientific community, despite industry attempts.
And by the way, it's interesting when you talk about the food habits of this country compared to anywhere else. Do you know that in a lot of countries, the whole gluten thing isn't a thing? Like the way that we harvest wheat here, whether it's GMOs or who knows what, is what adds to all of this gluten intolerancy that has messed up the diets of so many people. And apparently you can have flour in parts of Europe and it doesn't affect, it's not true for everybody, but for some people, it doesn't affect them.
Despite industry attempts over many years to deny, deceive, and literally pay off scientists. Now, how did this happen? The tobacco industry drove the rise of ultra-processed foods.
Wait a second. The cigarette companies have something to do with this?
Starting in the 1960s, Big Tobacco Starting in the 1960s, Big Tobacco bought major food companies. R.J. Reynolds purchased Nabisco and Del Monte. Philip Morris purchased General Foods and Kraft. In the 1970s, the food industry consolidated.
You know, now that he says this, it's starting to make sense because in the 50s, who was telling you to buy cigarettes? Fred Flintstone. And in the 60s and 70s, who is telling you to buy cereal? Fred Flintstone. Who is telling you to buy push-up pops? Fred Flintstone. And who was trying to get you to buy those vitamins that definitely had no nutritional value? Fred Flintstone.
These companies then transferred people, ideas, technology from Big Tobacco to the food industry. They used Big Tobacco tactics to research, design, and sell addictive products.
All right, it's starting to make sense, right? The people behind cigarettes are the same people that brought you Hot Pockets. All right, I get a lot more of this sound, but I'd love to hear from you what you think about this. Do you think this lawsuit has any merit? Do you think the big food manufacturers should be held fiscally responsible for making us fat? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The city attorney of San Francisco is suing some of the largest food manufacturers because he says their ultra-processed foods have made us fat and sick. And now they should have to pay. What say you? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Should big food be held accountable for making us fat? That's the lawsuit that was brought yesterday. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. We'll get to your calls next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The city attorney of San Francisco is suing major food manufacturers because he says their ultra-processed foods have made us ultra-fat. What say you? 800-222-5222. Do you think this lawsuit has any merit? 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay right there because we're going right to your calls next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel at Randy Wang Radio and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. The city attorney of San Francisco, David Chu, is suing the largest manufacturers of what he calls ultra-processed foods. Your chips, your crackers, your Hot Pockets, your breakfast cereal. He says that their deceptive advertising has made us all fat, and now they should have to pay up big money. What say you? Do you think this lawsuit has any merit? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Thanks for holding, everybody. Let's start with Kevin in Elsinore. Kevin, hello.
Hey, okay. Number one, it's good to live in a country that can feed itself. China cannot feed itself. I am all good with the fact that we can feed ourselves. The country does not need to go outside the borders to feed ourselves. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of too much stuff, but you know what? I love my pancake mix and stuff. It's all good. Okay. No matter what they say, especially the woke crowd, no. I can feed myself. You know, it's all good.
Well, there you go, Kevin. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Loves his pancakes. Let's go to Les in Pasadena. Les, hello.
Randy, San Francisco City Attorney David Chu is obsessed with banned ultra-processed foods because he says they're bad for us. You see, his real problem is that he suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder. When David Chu was 3 years old, Mommy and Daddy wanted him to go to the bathroom and make something, but he wouldn't do it. He would get angry and frustrated and hold it in. And now here he is, 30, 40 years later, obsessed with neatness and order and ultra-processed foods. He's as bad as San Francisco Assemblyman Phil Ting. You might remember him. He's obsessed with banning paper receipts because of all the treated water it takes to make those flimsy paper receipts. Well, all I could say about David Chu and Phil Ting is thankfully there are treatments for OCD.
Thanks so much for the call, Les. Appreciate it. I will say his whole statement about that his mom would bribe him with Pringles to get him to go to swim class. I get it, although it might have been the other way around. Small children are very persuasive when they refuse to eat. Let's go to David in Long Beach. David, hello.
Hello, Randy. Thank you for taking my call. First-time caller, yes. I was a kid back in '87 eating Taco Bell, and it was great. And then all of a sudden, like in early '90s, I just couldn't eat it, but they were the first ones that start doing the GMO taco shells. Okay, now for people that haven't had problems with gluten, the allergies are going to get to you eventually because all those preservatives in there are causing a dynamic change in your body when you try to digest that food. So the body's made to eat natural stuff, not all these preservatives and all this GMO stuff that they're putting out nowadays. And on top of that, it's really expensive to eat gluten-free because none of those products are produced in bulk. You have to go out there and buy them like for just like as you and I. So even a gluten-free business like Twice Baked, their expenses have to go into buying the product to make the edible food that people can eat, but it's a lot more expensive. And I do philanthropy in that to help others with that problem because taking a poo, hey, it's no laughing matter. You're going to go to a doctor for a reason. Thank you for taking my call.
Well, thanks so much for the call, David. I do appreciate it. And I will say this. What's fascinating is based on the foods that we've all been consuming as a society over the last 50 years, this gluten allergy thing is new. People have been eating bread for hundreds and maybe thousands of years. But this, we can't consume the wheat. And again, only in this country mainly, that's a new thing. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Let's go to Mike in Oxnard. Mike, hello.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for having me. Listen, I don't think the question is whether the lawsuit has merit or not. I think what it is they're constantly trying to take down the old. For example, they're trying to tax the heck out of gasoline so we no longer buy gas cars. I think this is another one of those things where they want to be able to control what we eat and control the expense of what we eat and control the flavor of what we eat so we no longer have any joy in our lives. I mean, a box of cereal is about the last thing that we can afford to put on our plates and be happy with. I really don't see – I have 3 children myself. They all ate the Fruit Loops. They all ate the honeycombs. They're all healthy. They all played sports, still play sports into their 30s. And I just feel like it's another one of those things where one of these guys in San Francisco wants to tear down General Mills to put one of his guys in charge of some green company that's going to feed us wheatgrass.
Well, there's definitely stuff like that goes on all the time. Thank you so much for the call, Mike. Appreciate it. And it is interesting. There are plenty of kids that were raised on those same breakfast cereals that did not grow up to be 300 pounds like I used to be. So that is true. Of course, I always used to think I was healthy because I would get the Rice Krispies, but I would get the Rice Krispies and add Ovaltine. So it'd be chocolate Rice Krispies. And then if there was a little extra milk, I'd make sure to fill it with a little more Rice Krispies. And then if there was a little more Rice Krispies than there was milk, I had like 3 or 4 bowls at a time. I had a real issue. Here's what I will say. If you want to talk about anything that might have merit in this lawsuit, because we all know what breakfast cereal is, even the ones that say they're healthy. I don't even know how Special K does those dried strawberries. It's weird. When in the commercial they all say, part of a balanced breakfast, no, it's not. If you ate cereal for breakfast, that was your breakfast. You weren't eating like a tiny little portion of cereal and eggs and milk and everything else. So if you want to talk about some of the advertising that might be misleading, that could be one of them. Also, lean pockets. Ain't nothing healthy about a lean pocket or a lean cuisine. Let's go to Morris in Hollywood. Morris, hello.
Yes, good afternoon. You might have started banning restaurants, the food that you eat at a restaurant. When you get canned vegetables, the vegetables come from a tin can. It's all processed with salt and preservatives. So start banning restaurants now. That's not good for you. Most of the food is fried, whether you order a steak or ground beef, whatever, hamburger, it's fried on the grill. All right, so you're going to start banning that now. That's not good. Where do you stop with that? Start banning the government. Okay, they're eating too much processed food. The politicians are. So where do you go with that? No, that lawsuit is fruitless. It's a waste of taxpayer money, just like that Proposition 50 was a waste of taxpayer money. Now the state has got a deficit. They need more money. The money just goes to waste. So where do you stop at that? No, the restaurant food, for the most part, is not healthy for you. So, it's just bad to eat out of restaurants every night. And a lot of people do.
If you go out every night, you are going to gain weight. That is a fact. And I think everybody should be aware of that. Thanks so much for the call, Morris. Appreciate it. Now, I don't think brining counts as ultra processed. It might count as a process. But I will say, you ever have one of those old school cans of green beans? That's a color green that you don't usually see. It's almost nuclear. Hey, if you're on hold, stay there. We're getting right back to your calls. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phone. Start with Joseph in Manhattan Beach. Joseph, hello.
Hi. All these things, drive up all of our costs because, we're always paying somebody else's health insurance, which is absolutely crazy. And the funny thing is the government actually going after somebody for false advertising when none of their legislation is straightforward. One of the interesting things I found when I got an insurance policy, and I got an insurance policy that the first $7,000 deductible, I paid for all the coverage with the exception of a wellness check. And the insurance company said to me, oh, but that first $7,000 deductible is not at your cost, it's at our cost. So it made me think, wait a second. So when I pay a 20% deductible and it's at a really high rate, what is their rate? So that your deductible is not based on what the insurance is paying.
Oh, they purposely make it as mystifying as possible. They don't want you to know how much any of this stuff costs. Try trying to pay cash at some of these clinics and you'd be like, wow, it's a heck of a lot cheaper. Let's go to Patrick in L.A. Patrick, hello.
Hello, Patrick Murphy here of Murphy Fitness, 30 years experience, health professional, fitness professional. I train a bunch of celebrities here. I know what I'm talking about. Hear me out. I'm going to try to share and help your listeners as much as possible. The broad stroke is what I've been teaching all these decades is the whole food diet approach. And I'll tell you why. Your chief detoxifier of your body is your liver, okay? If your liver has to constantly detox, it can't do what it's meant to do, and that is to metabolize fat off your body. Guess what? The liver does that. But if your body is full of fillers and toxicants and all these horrible things, your body will never operate efficiently and you will slowly gain fat. And that's why we have this big obesity epidemic, because what's in the food is just such a disaster. No one's talking about the pesticide. The most used pesticide is glyphosate. Well, guess what glyphosate does? It's a mineral stripper. Everyone is deficient in magnesium, and that's responsible for 300 different systems in our body. So everyone is like high inflammation, and they're constantly sick. And guess who we have to blame for this? The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, work together. They shouldn't. They should be separate entities. And
you're totally right about that. And there is a lot of bad collusion and a lot of bad science that's gone into, oh, fat is bad, so let's have you take all this low-fat food that's full of sugar. And that's what people did for years and years and years. Joe in Santa Monica. Joe, hello.
Hey, I was born here in Tarzana before I moved to Santa Monica. And my mother I think she was one of the first health food people. This is like back in the 50s, and she went and got vitamins. She would never get sugared cereal. It was horrible. I felt very deprived. We just had shredded wheat and wheat checks and things like that. There's sugar, I think, in some of that stuff. But I just wanted to point out that I'm glad this suit's coming out, because at least it brings out the fact, or it amplifies what many people know, is that the food, this processed food, is so bad for you and so full of sugar, and it's disgusting. But we have a choice. We have a choice to buy and eat whatever we want to do. But what you and John had talked about is if you have food stamps, and you should be able to mandate what they can buy with those food stamps. And
I think that's a pretty common sense thing. Thanks so much for the call, Joe. I think that's super common sense. You know, if you're being subsidized for your food budget because you can't afford it, well, we should make sure you're eating healthy because you're probably also on Medi-Cal, so we're paying for your health insurance. Peter in Northridge, hello.
Yes, good evening, Randy. I'm very upset about this photo. Wanting to do whatever he's wanting to do. He should be run out of town on a rail, I think. I mean, one thing I'm really upset about is when somebody tells me, oh, they're designing it to to get you hooked on it, to get you addicted. What kind of nonsense is that? For crying out loud, if I'm a guy who makes food and I want to sell it to you, Randy, I design it to make sure it tastes good. Right?
Oh, you're totally right about that. If I didn't like the food, I wouldn't buy the food. So it's kind of weird to decide that marketing. So I totally agree with you on that. When they try to say that certain food is healthy, maybe there's something there. Hey, I got something nice for you. Thanks for listening, everybody. 790 KABC welcomes Weird Al Yankovic, the bigger and weirder 2026 tour at the Acrisure Arena, September 13th, 2026. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Last night, I was invited by our friends at Broadway and Hollywood to the Montalban Theater on Vine in between Hollywood and Selma to see Dungeons and Dragons, the 20-sided tavern. And this was a wild theater experience. Most of it is completely improvised, and you in the audience actually get to vote on your phones and decide the people on stage, what characters they're going to play, what decisions they're going to make. You have an impact on the story. It is a wild ride, and I brought my wife with me, and she knows nothing about Dungeons and Dragons, and so at the beginning it was a little hard for her to follow, but she caught on. I know almost nothing about Dungeons and Dragons. I know the fantasy tropes. My wife and I loved that movie that came out a couple of years ago, but this was a wild time. It was a laugh riot, and what these actors go through in these completely made up situations, it was a ton of fun. So if you're into that kind of thing, especially this interactive theater where you're encouraged to bring out your phone and play games along, they brought a lot of people up on stage, and the crowd was so into this thing. There were so many people that came dressed up with elf ears and different costumes. It was a really, really good time. It was a really good crowd. So you should check it out if that's your thing. Dungeons and Dragons, the 20-sided tavern, is playing at the Montalban Theater in Hollywood now through December 21st. I had a great time. So check it out if you'd like. You can go get tickets at BroadwayInHollywood.com. That's BroadwayInHollywood.com. And I want to say thank you so much to our friends at Broadway and Hollywood for the invite to check out the show. It was a pretty great time. And you know what? You will learn about all the merits of Dungeons and Dragons, how into that people have been since the early 1980s, and it's pretty cool. That scene is still really active, and I think you'll love how much you get to participate in this show. So check it out, BroadwayInHollywood.com. Thank y'all so much for being a part of this show every day. We took some great calls today. You can always email us any of your thoughts by emailing us at randywangradio@gmail.com. That's randywangradio@gmail.com. And check out my YouTube channel at Randy Wang Radio. I made a video of some of the tequila tastings at Thanksgiving. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KBC.